I am Mesha McLean-Munley, and I am a lupus advocate and warrior. About 3 years ago, I was officially diagnosed. And fortunately, I had a great team of medical providers. My primary care provider, she was able to get me in, seen, and diagnosed officially within 4 months,
Mm.
which was a blessing in and of itself because the average amount of time that the average lupus patient has to await an official diagnosis is about 7 years, unfortunately, even now. So I was really blessed and still am. I have, like I said, a great professional care team who really helps me out a lot. But at the time, I was experiencing a lot of joint pains in my hands and my feet, like the tingling.
Mm.
And my mind said, okay, well, maybe just tendonitis. I worked in an office setting. I do a lot of typing. That's pretty standard.
Mhm.
But then, like, getting up out of the bed was really painful and hard.
Mm.
Then being able to walk was even more challenging. It was almost as if I was walking underwater. Like that feeling that you get when you're
Mhm.
coming out of the ocean
Oh yeah.
and you're kind of underwater a little bit and your feet are so heavy. Like that's how I was. And I said, this isn't normal. So,
No, it is not.
how, especially as Black women, sometimes we just keep pushing, because those bills got to be paid, the children,
Okay.
they take
Every
care of,
month. Eh.
husband hungry, so I got to keep pushing. But I said, this just isn't right. So let me go on to the doctor. And of course, they did their blood work or what have you. And my primary said, I think this is what it is. She said, I think it's lupus, but I do want to send you over to a rheumatologist, just to be, sure, what have you.
Mhm.
And I was able to get in by the blessing, nothing but God, that I was able to get in to see a rheumatologist within 2 weeks.
Mm.
And
That
nothing
is
but,
great.
because I've had friends who have been on the waiting list to see a rheumatologist for almost a year. Things are just so backed up. But I was officially diagnosed with lupus, SLE. However, during that 4 months that I was waiting to be officially diagnosed, I did suffer some damage, and I developed lupus nephritis.
Mm.
So I was having kidney issues. During this time, I also developed blood clots in my legs, as well as a pulmonary embolism in my lungs. And I was suffering that. I was hospitalized for a good 2 weeks.
Mhm.
During that time, I was getting the treatments necessary to take care of my kidneys. I'm doing better now. Still experiencing some of those ups and downs. Every day is a battle, such as today. I'm
Every single day.
not feeling it today, to be honest. Yesterday, I had all intentions of preparing for today because today is World Lupus Awareness Day. So I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm going to go out and be great. Go ahead and get some content to do some videos. And the only thing I did yesterday was did my hair, makeup, and I sat on the couch all day. Literally, I didn't move. I didn't have the energy. I was just tired,
Yeah.
super tired. And like you feel bad sometimes, especially as a mother. You're like, oh my goodness, my children, they need things, and I can't
Mhm.
even physically move. Thank God my husband understands now, so he's able to step in. But
Mhm.
there are unfortunately some people who don't have that support system or don't have that strong village. But yeah, today and even yesterday, today's been kind of challenging. But overall, I'm not where I was, and that's why I try to be as active as possible to let people know, hey, you know, lupus is a thing. Lupus, you might not be able to see it, but it is real. Please go get checked out. And we're just trying to bring awareness to this issue.
Mhm. And it has to be like so in the in the time that you have been dealing with the chronic pain and with even what now we know as lupus, like at any point were you diagnosed with fibromyalgia?
No, that now that was one of the things that my rheumatologist tried to, I don't want to say knock off the list, but
Mm.
to make sure that I wasn't experiencing that.
Mhm.
That as well as MS. So I did go through testing for both of those, and those were ruled out.
Okay.
But I do have a friend who has fibromyalgia, and the pain that she talks about is just
Mhm.
so excruciating. Like you wouldn't even believe it. Like it is really amazing what our bodies go through.
Right.
And sometimes it's challenging too because, we deal with these invisible illnesses. We don't fit that I'm sick mold,
Mhm.
like some cancer patients, they'll get scars, they'll lose hair, this, that, and the third. But the pain that we're feeling,
Mhm.
it's not really seen, it's not really visible. So it's just amazing what our bodies go through underneath that microscope. Like, it's really wild. But thankfully, I do not have fibromyalgia, just the straight lupus and lupus nephritis. As far as my diagnosis, I also I did get the rashes. Are clearing up. There's some creams and things like that. But my lupus is mainly just the joint pains, and I get the embolisms in my lungs. Those are recurring. So unfortunately, I'm on meds for life for that. But
wow. And so now, do you think, or did your providers say that, was it like the pulmonary embolisms and then the kidney involvement, was that a direct cause of delayed diagnosis?
mm-hmm, absolutely, yes, ma'am. Um, at the time for my lupus nephritis, I was having back pains and like it hurt to urinate. And I was like, oh Lord, I hope it ain't nothing bad. But
It
you get scared, like,
could be a
oh Lord.
lot of things when you're dealing with that, like,
Right. Especially as women, we like, oh snap. But
right?
but yeah, when I was going through that, we did a kidney biopsy, and then we did discover that I was at stage 3 kidney failure at the time. So we went in, well, not we, but my doctors were able to go in with a vigorous treatment. I was under a lot of therapy, getting treatments hit after hit. And my body went through a lot during that time, but I am thankful that I was able to handle all of that, because I've heard that some lupus patients cannot handle those type of treatment. Well, people, period. I don't want to just say lupus patients, but yeah, that was a direct result. And unfortunately, that's a lot of lupus patients and other patients, when they're waiting on their diagnosis, their bodies get hit by so much. It's not necessarily that lupus is what kills those patients. It's those other things like that happens to their body while they're waiting on that treatment and what have you. It's craziness. Like I said, lupus nephritis, the discoid, like things just really, really hit you back to back. And while you're waiting on that treatment, they can't give you certain treatments until you officially get that diagnosis. So a lot of people are sitting there waiting, and their bodies is just deteriorating during that waiting game.
And that is one of the scariest parts about it. Like, you yourself know something is wrong with your body. You know
Right.
something's, and all of this time that's waiting, there's spent waiting, and lack of available care, which plays a role in the delayed diagnosis. Because I know for myself, um, they're still trying to zero in on exactly what's going on. They have a strong inkling it could be lupus, but they can't really catch my ANA, where they like my ANA. I'll get one positive, one negative, but then my inflammation numbers are like crazy high. So the rheumatologist is like, you should have, like, with these numbers, I should be able to say you have lupus, but I
Right.
can't because of all these other criteria that need to be met for insurance purposes and all the other stuff that don't really help you in the long run. you know?
Right.
So it's like, I mean, I've gone through PET scans, I've gone through all these things trying to get there, and it's like we can understand, like, everybody responds to a lot of things differently. Um, but there are basic criteria that can be met. Um, while you were going through the waiting, like, what was your emotional and mental health? How what was that?
You see my hands? That's how
It was fight for your life,
I
fight for
just
your very existence.
it was rough because I found out officially about my lupus diagnosis through my chart. Like it's like a patient portal a lot of people have. And I saw the ding on my phone, like, hey, you got new results. And then I saw lupus. And I'm like, what in the world? Now, I had heard of lupus because, I'm a millennial, America's Next Top Model. I
Right,
remember
right.
models that I think she had won. She had lupus,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't really get a chance to go into her story and talk about it. So I knew that bit. I was like, okay, well, I'll just be tired. And then when I started researching,
Mm.
baby, some of those pictures were horrifying,
Yes.
just horrifying. All of the skin things that can happen. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh my Lanta. And then maybe 20 minutes later, my doctor called. That's how it is. Sometimes that we find out about those
They're a
tests.
little bit delayed, yeah.
I hate, but that's neither here nor there. But and then she told me, she said, this is the diagnosis that I'm thinking that you have. And she said it's not a death sentence because she heard me. She knew my heart had dropped.
The panic, yeah, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And then I know her as well. That's one of the reasons why I chose her. But that's another story. But she said it's not a death sentence. It can be treated. We just have to go in and get you the treatment necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing my own research. And again, I was even more afraid and I just felt so alone. I was like, Lord, have mercy. My parents are getting older and I don't want to tell them this.
Yeah.
I have children. At the time, my son was a senior in high school. And I'm like, Lord, I don't have time for this. Like I said, I said, God, I don't have time to be sick. Like I got stuff to do. I've got too much living to do. I don't have time for this sickness at all.
Right.
But after I had done my research and I saw that there are people who are able to manage it and live long, healthy lives, and then I actually had called my doctor back and I cried with her, and she was able to assure me, "Hey, Mesha, chill out. We got you. You're in good hands." Like and she also told me, she said, "Well, have I ever let you down before with your care?" And I was like, "You know what? You're right. You're right. You have always looked out for me." So let me calm down just a little bit. But initially, within that first couple of hours, my mind was
I mean,
like, in my mind, this was it. This was it. Like I'm tomorrow. Let me go ahead and write out my will. Like I'm dramatic anyway, so
I
I'm
mean,
really this is
like,
it.
it helps,
Yeah, and then I hadn't, like I said, I hadn't really known anybody that had lupus. So that was even more, challenging trying to visualize, not trying to be funny. Well, like, I've seen people who have beat breast cancer. I've seen people beat diabetes, things like that. But I have never seen anybody or known anybody at that time that was able to handle lupus. So my mind, of course, was death sentence. This is it. This is that Mesha on the tombstone. But by the grace of God, like I said, and my doctor, and then I did a lot of praying and meditating as well to really calm me down. Had to think about all those Bible stories and things like that you had heard about your faith, the woman with the issue of blood.
Yeah.
But like things like that is what really was able to keep me going. That and the fact that, like I said, I don't have time to die. I don't have time to deal with a sickness right now. I've got too much living to do, and my kids still need me. Like regardless of how grown they think they are, they need me, and I'm gonna be
every day. I mean,
so I
and they
got
do.
that mindset, girl. I had to change my whole mindset after I crashed out.
I mean,
I
and
had to change
then
my mindset.
people, I feel like sometimes people feel like when they crash out or have their emotional breaks, like somehow that's a weakness or but you are human and you just got a diagnosis that for probably more worse than better is going to change your entire life.
Right,
Everything that you do is going to be filtered through that, it mainly just for your safety, so
right.
that you can continue to live,
Yeah.
and I think a little crash out sometimes is just warranted. It's good for the
Right.
spirit. It's like,
Yeah, even Jesus flipped over some tables. So yeah,
I've been
look,
saying
crash
that a
out.
lot this week. I'm like, Lord, I feel you because I need a table to flip because this here is not okay.
Yeah.
And it's completely normal.
Mm-hmm.
And and then of course, but then of course you have your emotions, you do crash out, but then thank God we know Jesus.
Yes,
We
sir.
we we have that anchor to go back to. Like, okay, God, my bad. I'm here. What's up now?
Yeah,
What we gonna do?
tell me.
Yeah, it's like I can listen now, huh? What's that? Because I mean, he made us. He made us in every little special way. And my thing is too. I'm like, you know what? When you go through that, like when you go to that thought pattern, like so, God, you put this in here, or you like what for? Can I
Let's
see
talk
the
about it.
like what's the last chapter? You get a book and you read the last chapter. Let me see it. Yeah, this go in because I don't. Mm-mm. This is not on my bingo card, sir.
We ain't
But even with that, he knows.
right.
And be real with yourself. Be real, so tell me how your faith is anchoring you, or how it is getting you through this time.
So I'm a church kid. Been going to church. I was born on a Sunday. And I always joke with my parents and say, yeah, after my mom pushed me out, y'all took me to church afterwards.
Right.
Like that's all I've ever known. Sunday school, church, vacation Bible school, Bible study, choir rehearsal, whatever. I've always been involved. And I knew God, God's the homie.
Exactly.
But honestly, me being diagnosed with lupus is what really allowed me to build the relationship with him.
Mm.
Like I knew of him, like I said, I've read Genesis to Revelations. I knew all the stories,
Mm-hmm.
but this diagnosis is what really made me have those more intimate conversations with him.
Right. Right.
That's when he was really able to, I guess, because he had to get my attention, like, okay, your life been cool. You've been skidding by. Let me
Right.
go wake you up. Let me let you know that I'm here and you need me. Sometimes you don't realize how much you need God until all you have is God.
Mm.
Like, and it was really unfortunate because that was the time when COVID had first hit. So I was working from home. Between me and you and anybody listening, I was working 2 jobs, working from home. Like I was getting money. Like, and we were doing really well financially.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my kids were doing really great in school. Like I was really having that Job type moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that sickness took all of that away. I
Mm.
wasn't able to work, so that income was gone. We
Right.
were relying just on my husband, which unfortunately at that time wasn't, what I was bringing in at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do a lot of cutbacks, and there were times when I really did feel like Joe, like, dang, Lord, like you said that you won't never leave me or forsake me, but I'm feeling a little forsaken right now. God,
Right.
where you at type thing. And then that was when he was able to like really speak to me and I was able to hear, I guess, because I wasn't able to hear, I was able to listen. I had heard all my life, but at this time I was able to listen because I was actually going through that. It's easy to go and visit somebody in the hospital and encourage them, hey, keep the faith. But when you're in that hospital bed and all those doctors have left and it's just you with the beat and your body is in so much pain
Mm-hmm.
that morphine and you're getting fentanyl or whatever the case may be, and you're still feeling that pain, like, okay, now you have no choice but to go ahead and open up and have those conversations with God. So really and truly, lupus did bring me a whole lot closer to him. Like I said, we have a more intimate relationship and I'm able to talk to him like I'm talking to you now, like, hey, God, holla at me type thing. Like we're really there now. And that's, I don't want to say it's all because of lupus, but just me having to go through this journey, just me having to, to be so vulnerable and not having myself to depend on. Like I really had to depend on him during those times.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, it was plenty of times when I was in the hospital by myself in nothing but pain. And the doctors had given me all of the strongest medication that they could give. And I'm still feeling pain. And I had no choice but to cry out to him. Like that was the only way I was able to get that relief was just through him. So honestly, if it wasn't for my faith in God, like honest to goodness, I would have been in a very terrible place because like depression is real. When
Very
you get
real.
these diagnoses, you get depressed, like you get down, you feeling like, dang, like I got so much more stuff to do off my bucket list. There are things that I want to do and accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
You start counting like, dog, look at so and so, they doing this and they're living and they're prospering, blah blah blah. I want to be like that. I won't
Mm-hmm.
even have that chance. But then you have to be reminded like God's plan is supreme. He already has your steps ordered. So just rely on him during this time. Like
Yeah.
you have no choice. I could not
And
have done
you really don't. I
any.
mean, and I guess, like yourself, like I mean, I've grown up in the church, and I've always been, sensitive, I guess you say, to God's word. But much like yourself, like it was very um shallow, like surface
Mhm.
level, and it wasn't until I got sick, because I would always say, like, whenever I tell my stories, like, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, living my best life. Like I was, working, had finally got my good job,
Yeah.
using my degree, a decent relationship, like just not a care in the world.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like it was literally like this one day in December, and everything changed. And that's a shock to the system,
Mm-hmm.
because you've been living this certain way and had these certain expectations for the majority of your life.
Right.
And it's going to take a minute because you still want to do things in your power and your
Yeah.
strength.
Come
But
on.
when you get to a point to where you can even really breathe, like where breathing takes thought,
Ooh.
like that will mess you up.
Right. Mentally.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's hot.
and so it will, and like I said, it's that verse. He will find a way to keep you on your knees,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not even so much like you're like because I know people may say, well, it's a curse or it's like a punishment. I don't see it as a punishment. Now, do I prefer a different what path? Absolutely. I mean, yeah. Where I get that at? But at the same time, I realized, and it was much later in my journey, but I realized now that this had to happen because the path I was on before wouldn't have had me doing podcasts. It wouldn't have had me meeting great people like you.
Right.
It would have me. I would, and I still prefer to be in the back. No
Come
one
on.
know my name or my
Me.
face. I'm doing stuff to make you happy. I'm giving you the
Yeah.
product,
Yeah.
but you don't know where it came from.
Right. I get you.
You
I
know,
like back too, sis.
yeah. See, I mean, but it's like, but he needed us out here.
Right.
I was
You
like, sometimes I say, God, it could have been an email. I mean, you could have just, you know, I'm just saying, I would have did it eventually.
even Moses got a burning bush. Why you couldn't just do me
Right?
like
Sir. I mean, I am teachable. Like you didn't have to like just take everything, take my backbone out, none of that. Collapsing my spine back there, just doing the most, sir. But
push it?
he knows what needs to happen so that he can get the glory.
Right.
And I'm okay. And regardless of the pain that I'm in, I'm okay with that.
Right.
It's like because at the end of the day, that's the goal. You know, but with even with all of that, how do you how do you take your day and manage it? Like how do you okay, how do you even manage your day? But then on them days like yesterday when it was like a no-show day, like what do you have to say to yourself to not feel guilty for taking that time?
I've served my time. I have put in work. I have given all of the A+ effort up until
Mhm.
my one of my line sisters had told me, she said, we understand you're a warrior, you are a superwoman, but sometimes you can take the cape off. Like, sometimes you can take that off and let somebody else do it. Like, honest to goodness. And then sometimes I can't stand. I do feel a little bad. But then that's when I realize, like, hey, that's why God blessed me with my village.
Right.
Like my husband, my parents they live in North Carolina. I'm not sure if you know that my parents live in North Carolina and I live in South. But
Uh,
on times when I have those really bad flares, my parents are still able and they'll come to South Carolina and they'll help out. They'll cook and they'll help me take care of the kids so my husband can work. Like I've just been blessed and fortunate to have such a strong support. I wouldn't be able to do anything without them. But even on the seventh day, God rested, and
yeah.
I'm nowhere near Him, so why can't I?
At 100%. And even in what you just said about having your support system, like, okay, yes, he graced you with lupus and these physical limitations, but he also gave you the support to still get things done, to take care
Exist,
of
yeah,
you. So
right?
he still provides.
He
And
does.
it may not be the way you would have chosen it because these A type personalities that nothing can get done and it's not gonna be right if I don't do it. Like I get you. I seriously get you.
Hmm.
But that wasn't the plan. You
Right.
know, phone phone just falling.
Uh oh.
Anyway, but yeah, so he always provides, and I like to say a lot of times it's really more a me issue,
Mm,
when it gets down to it. Um, and I just have to be able to allow him to do his work.
that's a good point. That is a good point. How can others see how great God is if you don't allow him to be great in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Like you like you said, you don't know how many people are watching you and are unable to see that. So who's to say that God is not trying to prove himself to somebody else who's watching you? You got to allow yourself to be that willing vessel. Come on
Mm-hmm.
now. Come on,
Hey,
work, young
let
folks.
let it be God. Hey, I don't know where that came from. That came straight from him.
You got to be
So
him.
yeah, and that, I mean, that is true. So let me see. So we're running a little bit on time with Zoom, so if it does kick us out, just shoot back in.
That'll work.
But yeah, so with so we talked about the mental health, talked about the chronic illness journey and your resilience, and even the community. But what would be one piece of advice you would give someone who is newly diagnosed?
Newly diagnosed. One big piece that's helped me, other than faith and community, I would say make sure that your healthcare providers are on the same team and same side with you. Unfortunately, there are some who are just in it just to be in it, who don't really care or value about you. But make sure that you get somebody that you're comfortable with, whether it be rheumatologist, your primary, or whatever specialist doctors that you get, because that really makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because there have been times that I was not as comfortable
Mm-hmm.
speaking to some of the doctors as I am now. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the care that I needed because I didn't speak up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, make sure that you're comfortable with your healthcare provider. And just because you're given a rheumatologist doesn't mean that's who you have to stay with. I mean, you can always request somebody else.
That's
There
right.
are ways, that you can get that, even with insurance issues. There are ways about that. So make sure you're educating yourself as well. But just being your very own advocate. Because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, like you just mentioned earlier, you know your body. Those test results might say that you're fine, but if you say that you're not feeling well, you're not. So you have to be an advocate, but you also have to have that relationship with your primary doctors and your care workers to make sure that you're getting the care that you need.
Absolutely. And that is, and at least for me right now, that is one of the biggest points and things that even me with my care. Like I have this past 2 years, I think. Yeah, 2 years. So I've had to change my entire team. And let me tell you, I thought I was gonna go crazy. It is not easy,
Right, right.
because all the pre-work, you gotta do the research and check the reviews and all the things. And sometimes you just gotta go in there and see. You gotta go in there and just give it a shot. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, which it's a practice, I'm learning even myself, follow your gut.
Yes.
I
I,
mean, they can say all the pretty words, they can do whatever it is they're gonna do, but follow your gut. If you feel something is off, you don't have to even know what that something is. Start start asking more questions to kind of
mhm.
dig it out. Start looking for someone else, because at the end of the day, they work for you. That,
That
I
part.
mean, not to be no kind of way, but they
No,
work
no,
for
you have to be that way. This is your life. You have to be. You're
you.
right.
Yeah, I
Take
mean,
it.
'cause like for the only doctor I haven't officially changed now is my hematologist, and that they are on their way out. But you know, because things, they get comfortable, they get lazy, and you deserve to live a fulfilled life,
That part. Come on now.
and that involves being as comfortable and in as little pain as possible. Um, I don't know how what your team looks like, the composite, but I've started looking for black, female, and or some shade of color. Some shade of color. Little brown, little pink, I don't care. Because honestly, I did it as an experiment, but I'm like, I want to know how big a difference it's gonna make. It has made all the difference. I'm
My
like,
prime, I'm sorry for cutting you off. My primary, that's why I chose her. She looks like me. Like every time I go see her, different hairstyle. Like she's black excellence. And
mm-hmm.
she one, like I said, that was able to steer me in that right direction. So you're right, it does make a
It,
difference.
it really does. And it's unfortunate, but you know what? It's 2025. Like at this point, can we really be shocked by anything at
That
this
part,
point? So it
things to myself, I don't care. Say what you want. I'm going for what's best for me.
and you have to. And like I said, now I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's gonna be a struggle because depending on the area you're in.
That's
Like for
surely.
me, my rheumatologist is 2.5 hours away. And I just found out they're not in network, which is
Of
crazy.
course,
Which
of
is
course.
crazy. you know, so yeah, there you have to make those adjustments, but getting that healthcare that health team that you can talk to, because I've only had this I've had a new room a new primary care, and she's probably like a couple of months in, and on the first visit I'm like, man, I'm not okay. I mean, she's a sister. She's black and all that
Right.
stuff. And I'm like, I am not okay. I'm just gonna tell you. Like, I've been through this. I've been through this. I've been told this. And she was like, yeah. I was like, I'm just telling you right now. Like,
Yeah.
this the rope. Here's me. Here's the rope. Like, so take that information and do with it what you will.
Right.
you know,
I
um, and you need to be able to be honest with them. I mean, why else are you going? What else is the point?
Yeah. Let me share you a story. So when I first moved to South Carolina, I was looking for a doctor. And I found one that was in network, all that jazz. She was a white lady. And you know how they ask you those preliminary questions? Well,
Mhm.
do you drink? Do you smoke? She said, well, do you smoke? I said, in college. I've been out of college for like 8 years at the time. She
Mhm.
put down on my chart that I was a former smoker.
Okay.
Okay, so I go to my now primary. She's a black woman, and she asked me those same questions. About your family. Does this run in your family? Do you drink? Do you smoke? And I gave her that same reply. I said, yeah, I smoked in college. Girl, that don't count. So she went ahead and took it off. Now, can you imagine? Like, there are certain things like life insurance and things like that. They'll ask you, are you a former smoker or do you smoke? Like, okay, boom. If you smoke, if that's on your chart that you are a
Mhm.
smoker or a former smoker, now your insurance rates are going to be higher.
Right.
So can you imagine had my doctor not caught that and she kept that on there that I was a former smoker? Just little things like that. She's able
Mhm.
to sometimes, those words that we say to each other, we can understand. And
Right.
there are times, with dealing with this and depression, she's like, how are you mentally? And I've been honest. I said, you know what? Sometimes I don't want to be here.
Mhm.
I'm not suicidal. I don't want to take myself out. Like, I just don't want to be here physically feeling this pain. But she never, sent me
Yeah.
to, what is it, the psych ward or anything like that. She said, okay, well, let's work on your mental. Now, had another doctor,
You have
that
been.
might have,
You probably wouldn't have left the office.
I would have been hugging myself in those
You would have
jackets.
called the cops right away. I mean,
Right.
and it's those nuances, because the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is that's true. It's real. Like if you okay, let's like right now. There's like a tornado outside right now.
Oh, Lord.
So the weather is not behaving.
Mm-hmm.
My leg is on fire.
Oh, snap.
Like it, I mean, so imagine that, like, that's an everyday situation, or
Right, right.
some level of discomfort every single day. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what actual regular person? Well, it'd be like, yeah, that's a little inconvenient, but it is what it is. It's no
Right.
problem. I'll handle it. I mean, now that's what we say because we
Yeah.
don't have a choice.
But they get it. They get what we're saying.
Yeah, but it's very, very real. Like, there are times you just want to not be in your body.
Right.
It don't mean you're gonna do nothing about it. It just
That
means it's just real, And
Look,
so,
I don't have time. I still.
I mean, so and yeah, you need someone that's gonna be able to walk that line,
Right.
and someone who also understands that as a black female, black person, certain things elicit certain responses, and the treatment is drastically different.
Come on. You speaking facts. You are
So to have certain things listed can, in most cases, equal life or death. So you got
it is time for you to be seen and heard. Now, it's time to put your business goals front and center. You've been navigating your health, your family, and your dreams with so much grace. The She's Rising Incubator is now open for enrollment. This isn't just another business program. It is a safe, empowering space where your health needs are respected, your brilliance is celebrated, and your voice is valued. Inside the incubator, you will build a brand that reflects your authentic story. You will learn to attract clients without the burnout. You will also get support from women who understand what it means to thrive with chronic illness. You're going to grow a business that gives you freedom and flexibility. You're going to stay accountable while honoring your body and your spoons. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to hustle to be worthy. You just need a community that sees you. Become a member of the incubator and finally create a business that feels good and works for your life. Now let's build your brand together.
let me know, when did you first get that inclination that you needed to search out providers that looked like you?
I had started doing some research, and this was before, my lupus or anything like that. But I was doing some research about, unfortunately, how a lot of Black women are treated when it comes to their health care. And I think this was it around the time Serena Williams? I think it might have been around the time that she had came out with her story, shared her story about her pregnancy or when she delivered, and how she was telling the doctors, hey, something's not right, and she was being ignored and this, that, and the third. And I said, there have been times in my past where I've, spoken to some doctors that don't necessarily look like me, and I felt ignored, but I just thought, okay, well, they're smarter than me. They know more than me.
Yep.
Went to school for it. So, and then I started researching more and more. And unfortunately, I saw a lot of articles supporting that. And I said, well, you know what? It doesn't hurt to try to find somebody that looks like me. And she was in my network. I said, boom, let's try it. But yeah, I had been seeing some things, some little microaggression back in my earlier days that now I'm like, okay, those are all red flags. That's just not how things are supposed to be. And then when I went to see my new doctor and we had the conversation about the smoking thing, I said, there we go, green flag. So, this is what it's all about. Let me be with somebody who I can identify with, who I feel cares and listens to me.
And I mean, because it's so important, and you really don't understand how much you need that until you get it. I mean, even with my situation now, it's like it's been going back and forth, like, sickle cell this, sickle cell that. I'm like, I'm 40 some years old. Why I'm just not hearing this now?
Yes, now.
Exactly. And even when I talk to them about, my fatigue, pain, this and that and the other, and at the time the doctor was a white man, older white man. And his nurse practitioner actually told me, well, I get tired sometimes too, and it's just a matter of getting a schedule and just forcing yourself to push through it. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, sure. I mean, and even like when I finally pushed and pushed to get them to do some more tests on my some more labs, and it was like, well, we think you have this rare form of sickle cell. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, well, there's two types, this, that, and the other. And I said, okay, well, so can we go ahead and get the test for it? This lady said to me, well, we can, but the test is too expensive. That wasn't my question.
Care. Yeah,
Not like, I'm not thinking, oh, you paying for it.
That part.
I'm like,
are you splitting the bill?
I'm like, I was legitimately lost and confused as to what was her point. So now I got this, new general practice doctor, and I'm telling her all of these things. And she's like, you have been worked up for a lot. So she ran all the tests on her own.
Come
She
on.
ran everything.
That's what I'm talking about.
And even with my thyroid, I've been on thyroid medicine for 15, 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, they run the basic thyroid panel and oh, everything's normal. Well, she's like, well, there's like 7 other hormones that are involved with the
Oh,
thyroid.
wow.
So
Teach
she
me. Yeah.
tested for those. And come to find out, there's something wrong with my thyroid.
Look at there.
You know, so I'm like,
All it
well,
took.
dang.
Right.
All
Just
this
one
bet on black.
person to believe you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, and then even like before that with the hematologist and asking about the fatigue and stuff, and I'm like, well, is there some sort of like treatment or a medication for the fatigue? I thought, no, there's really nothing, but there
I'm
actually is.
sure. Come on.
I'm
Now I really
like
think you're suffering.
that part, and this, and it's like, and like when you were mentioning like Serena Williams, um, she's famous. She
Got the
got
money.
like money for she got money for her money.
Yeah.
So if she gets treated like that,
Yes.
they
Man.
not. I'm surprised they even let me in the building. I mean,
Got
I'm
our
running
pictures on the outside.
got
Do not
this
take
$100 bill. I'm running for it right now.
it.
They chasing me down for that money.
Yes.
So just imagine lay people, regular old people who really just want to live a decent life,
Right. That's it.
preferably not in pain. Let's just put that out there.
That's all. We just trying to live. Merely
So
exist.
it's that, and this doesn't just apply to black people. Like if
Right.
you are Asian, and
Mm-hmm.
find someone who looks like you. If you're queer, LGBTQ, whatever,
That
find
makes a
someone
difference.
that you can talk to in your language. You ain't got a code switch. You ain't
Right.
got none of all that. Because in our conversation with the new PCP, I forgot she was a doctor. I'm just,
This is, I'm telling you, it makes
she's
a
going
difference.
through all these results and stuff, and I'm like, girl, you see, doctor girl. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
You want to be respectful.
Exactly. I forgot you were a doctor. Daggone. But that's what you want because
Right.
this your life, man.
Exactly.
Like, I
Exactly.
don't know how many other ways we can say it, but this is your life.
Right. You are responsible for it. Yes. And you better live it. So get some people on your
To the
team
tip
who you
top.
trust.
So maybe this next question, maybe some of what we just said is going to go into that, but maybe not. With the way things are currently, and what changes or improvements would you like to see when it comes to the treatment of chronic pain in any area?
I would love to see more people of color
Mm-hmm.
that are in the medical fields that can help us with that. Because that like you said, that goes a long way. I would also like to see the medications and things. I want to see a lower cost because some of this stuff is just
Crazy.
need a second job just to afford my medication. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
even with insurance. Like what in the world? What do I have insurance for? But I would love to see that. And I know you mentioned too about your rheumatologist is 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see there to be physicians in more rural areas,
Mm-hmm.
so that everyone can get that access to the care.
Mm-hmm.
And transportation is sometimes an issue as well.
It is.
So for those people who are not close to those doctors, let's try to see if we can get them some type of transportation to and from.
Mm-hmm.
Let's set up some clinics, how they used to do back in the day. Let's do some mobile clinics. Let's
Mm-hmm.
travel out and make sure that our people are taken care of. Those are the things that I would like to see change.
100%. Even to the point of maybe, having insurance change some of their things, like, have insurance cover some of these things aside from like, ambulance visits for emergencies, like, or if you do have, the transport, it's on like the gold standard packages that's like $12,000 a month.
Okay.
Like, come on. and,
Oh,
and
God.
and even though I know the insurance game is really all about profit, I intellectually understand that, but just having like the simple decency to have packages available that are affordable and that actually give you access to the things that are actually needed that will help prevent some of these things. I mean, like, I can only imagine the cost that you have to go through now that you've been officially diagnosed and you have these things, but you also have all these other issues that maybe 3 years ago, if they had come down with it, you wouldn't have had all this stuff. I mean,
Right.
with organ involvement now, I mean,
Yes.
lungs, like all why can't there be profit in prevention? Like,
Come on now.
that I don't. I mean, look. I like money as best as the next person.
Okay, we all do.
You know what I'm saying? But I just honestly don't understand it, and maybe it's a good thing. I don't want to be wired the way to where all that matters is money. Like, there has to be a balance.
Yeah,
There has to be.
Oh.
So, what would be one thing you would tell any patient? Like, just let's say there's someone with lupus who's just having just a hell of a day or a hell of a month, like, and they done, like, that's it. What would you tell them?
I mean, let's talk about it. Meaning, get you a support group. There's nothing wrong with getting to be in a support group, because we all, unfortunately, we're going to have those days. Like I said, there have been plenty of days that I didn't want to take myself out, but I just didn't want to be here. I would rather be somewhere else, and I'm gonna just leave it at that. But during those times, even after I prayed, some of those times I still felt that way. But I would call somebody in my local lupus support group. Y'all, today's one of them days. And I just leave it like that. And then all of a sudden, all of those encouraging texts and words would come through. Community is one of our biggest resources that we have. Aside from the medical care, the medication, the treatment, all that, having a strong community means the world. So make sure that you have somebody somewhere in your corner that you feel comfortable with, that you can call and talk to or text or whatever the case may be. So establish that is my biggest
thing. 100%. Because I mean, a lot of times the medicine sometimes makes you feel worse than the actual thing.
Really does. That
so
treatment.
It's like you kind of gotta, so those days, because I am never one. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's like you're gonna have a day. You can have a couple of them. It may be back to back.
Unfortunately, yep, you're right.
But just know that just like it started, it can end.
That part.
And don't be ashamed of anything, really.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, speaking to another friend of mine who has like some other chronic illnesses, and she was making the comment that she said that I know that that my pain is probably nothing compared to yours, so it's nowhere as bad. And I was like, I stopped her right then. I'm like,
right, yes.
Hold on. Like, wait a minute. Pain is pain.
Pain. Yes.
It's because there is no bar of you have better pain, worse pain. No.
Speak.
So don't even. I said, now I don't know about your other friends, but when you're talking to me, it ain't like that.
Right.
If you're having a sucky day, if your uterus is trying to come up through your throat, tell me that.
Right.
So just and that is just that's the statement. Like, we're all going to respond differently. We can have the same diagnosis, but it feels different to everybody.
Right.
Don't compare yourself. And I know it's so hard to say. It's so hard to say.
It's a natural reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. But don't feel as if you're not worthy of compassion, because we all are.
Right.
So I think this is a good conversation, and I love it that you're willing to be open and share with the people. So thank you so much.
Of course, girl, I'm honored.
Because people don't know, like, we go way back.
Yeah.
And we never met each other in person, but like I feel like we're at the cookout every day. Yeah. I was like,
Yes,
hey, and
again.
it's on my bucket list. I'll tell you, on my bucket list to travel more. So I may pull up on you. I'm just
Hey,
saying.
say less. We're
Uh,
gonna do what our bodies can do at the time. I'll put it like
right, right. I'm in Alabama, ain't that far, but
that.
yeah,
Um,
having people, that are willing to meet you and to share their knowledge, and
mhm.
to the people who are watching, you are that person to someone.
Yes,
We may not
absolutely.
listen, we may be laughing too much to them. They're like, why are they so happy? You know what I mean?
Right, that's
I
our
mean,
coping mechanism.
exactly. That's a whole other conversation, but yes.
Right.
But someone out there needs you to
Exactly.
tell your story your way.
Exactly.
That
Yes.
is really the whole point for me. Like, yes, there is some therapeutic effects I get from speaking my truth. Yes, it's true. But I want people to understand that you can do it. You can
Right.
get through it.
You can.
So
Not a contest. Yeah. Of
it is. So with that, girl, I'm gonna let you go. And I just want to say thank you again. Um,
course.
any last words you want to leave the people?
Just want to say everyone can be encouraged. Like she said, everyone has their last, those days where they just don't feel like keeping on. But make sure that you have a strong support system, rely on your faith, meditate, journal, whatever you need to do to get yourself through that at that moment. And also those who are in the community, like if somebody calls you and talks about their pain, this is not the time for you to talk about your pain too.
Mm,
Let them get it out. This shouldn't be a contest. Oh, well,
right.
it's just your toe. Well, my back's been hurting for no, this isn't the time. Just let them get that release. Make sure that you're being that supportive friend that you would need in that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
But just keep pushing. We got this. Ain't nothing to it, Pooh. We got this.
Nothing at all. And with that, we're gonna go on to our next segment. We'll be right back. Begin to close out this powerful short. As we begin to close out this powerful roundtable, I want to thank you for holding space for you, for listening with compassion, and for continuing to rise even when the weight is so heavy. To close out this year's Fibromyalgia Awareness Conversation and Fibromyalgia Roundtable, I am honored to introduce Yvette Salinas, a voice of spiritual truth, holistic restoration, and a deep sisterhood. Yvette is the founder of Juicy Fruits Ministries and the host of Spiritual Medicine's support group, where she leads women through soul leveling healing rooted in scripture, radical rest, and a real life support. She's also the host of the Spiritual Medicine Support Group, an author and a mentor for women navigating chronic illness, emotional burnout, and spiritual exhaustion. Her work reminds us that faith isn't separate from healing, it is central to it. Now, I do want to share something with you before we dive in. The first half of Yvette's interview was unfortunately lost due to technical issues with Zoom. Even though her segment is shorter, her presence is just as impactful. Her words are a balm, and I know we need to hear her voice in this space. So, here is the deeply rooted and always uplifting Yvette Salinas.
56, when the doctors find something, I'm like, thank you, Lord. Thank
Yeah.
you for revealing that. Thank you for letting them find it so that they can treat it, so that they can get on top of it. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
I'm grateful for now looking back for being diagnosed with fibro, and because that helped me to understand the pain and the treatment plans that I was going to go through with the other things that I was facing. Mhm.
100%. And that's like one of the things, like fibromyalgia to me is like, at least in the beginning, was like a trash can diagnosis after a while.
Right. Mhm.
But now it's like so many people have it and realize they've had it for a
Right.
while.
Right.
And because it affects everybody so differently.
It
Um,
does. It really
and
does.
having to learn to live with that's a feat in itself. you know
That alone, I mean, not being diagnosed with, say, cancer or lupus, but just having that diagnosis is enough. It is
Yeah.
such a painful diagnosis. Mhm.
I know, because like for me, I know, like me and my mom, she's always said one of the first things that happened with me were my abdominal tumors.
Mhm.
And so we're really not sure um if the surgeries from removing the tumors sparked the fibro, or if
Okay.
fibro was just kind of in there. But
Mhm.
finding the tumors also allowed the doctors to find out that I had double pneumonia. So it's like
Oh, see,
I
there it
kind of need
is.
I need to figure that out, you know?
Right.
And pretty much from that moment on, it's been, one surgery after another, one diagnosis after another. But again, a lot like you, I was in my late 20s, like 29, early 30s.
Mhm.
Then, well, for one, I was super stubborn because the doctor was like, because I was a pastry chef at the time, and the doctor
Okay.
was like,
Okay.
"You'll not be able to do that job again."
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, "Stop playing."
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I tried so hard, to go back to work, but they would never
Mhm.
release. It was crazy. But so Latoya back then was just extremely defiant
Yep.
and just
Yep.
like in denial, basically. I'm like, it is a bad cold. Like I've had, like, just get over it. But now, I'm like, okay. So what do we do about that? Like, okay,
Exactly. Isn't
yeah,
it crazy how we
yeah,
grow,
yeah.
in that area? Because for the person out there that is just being diagnosed with fibromyalgia or with any chronic illness,
Mm-hmm.
I know how scary that is. And I know that, it's terrifying, because you have no control, you feel, of what's happening to your body.
Right.
But all I can say is, there are so many people out there going through what you're going through. And as you hear these stories and you start listening, you realize that there are treatments out there.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways of coping with it, and educating yourself about it,
Right.
because, they've come a long way with treatment plans for this. In the beginning, when we were diagnosed, they didn't have treatment plans for it the way they do now.
Nope.
You
Not at
know,
all.
it was basically deal with it.
Yeah.
Take, or they wanted to medicate you,
Yeah.
with, all this really narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I started, when I was in so much pain and I was incapacitated, they had to give me Oxycontin, and I didn't want to take that, because I didn't want to get addicted to it, but I had no choice. I was in so much pain. But now I think, as you start talking to other people and you start hearing about how they cope with it, and I don't know, you build a tolerance for it
You
more.
do.
You do build a tolerance for it more, because that's what I would probably want other people to know. Like, don't just don't just rely on pain aid. You know what I mean? I think that as you connect with other groups and you connect with other people that are facing the same things that you're facing, it does allow you to build a tolerance for what you're going through.
Yeah.
And if you have to take, I'm not a doctor, go by what your doctors are prescribing you, go by what your doctors are telling you to do. But I do strongly suggest that, there has to be a tolerance, because I've known people for years that have been beaten down by this thing, and they literally cannot do much with themselves. But as they start coming to our groups and they start talking and they start sharing how they're feeling and they start hearing, my story, like, oh my God, you're missing 8 organs. Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? When they start hearing how other people are coping with it and how other people are dealing with it, then I could see the change. I could see, like, what, I've been doing so much better now. And I'm not taking, as much pain medics, and I'm realizing that my pain is hard, but I can deal with it.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And
Like, that's what
and I
I
think
would want to encourage people.
yeah. And I think it's important also to be like, hearing other stories does help. We're not saying to compare yourself to anyone,
Never, never. Don't
but
compare. Hmm.
there is a fine line between comparison and then just learning tools
Mhm.
of the trade.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
basically, because that's basically what I mean when I say life's gonna have to be different, gonna have to look different. That's what I mean. Like,
Yep.
a non-pain person can stay out a little late, get a couple hours of sleep, get up early and go to work and be totally fine.
Right.
You not so much. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're gonna have to learn a different way to sleep. You're gonna have to find different sleep patterns. And in the morning, you're still gonna wake up as if you hadn't slept at all.
It's so true. I came back from DC, right? And everyone was calling, how are you doing? Are you feeling okay? And stuff. I literally could not return calls. I literally stayed in bed for a whole week
Yeah.
to recover. It's how bad I was flaring. And coming off the prednisone and all of that's, it takes a toll on you.
Mhm.
And so you do have to, like you said, we have life looks differently and we have to show grace to our body. I had to show grace to my body. I knew when I came back that I was going to have to rest or I was going to end up like I did the year before with pneumonia because I didn't rest, you know? So this year I took notes and I'm like, nope, I'm going to come back and I'm just going to rest the whole week. And I did, you know?
Exactly. And I think definitely like the words of encouragement were really good. That's actually gonna be my next question. But I just think that if you can find your safe space, because there are so many support groups, not everyone's gonna be a perfect fit. Like, and
Oh
that's
no.
okay. That
Yeah.
is okay. You go, you try it. If it feels off, try another one. You know?
Hmm.
But the place, finding the place where you can speak your mind, no judgment, and preferably that they also actually give you actionable steps, as I call them, to move
Hmm.
forward from a flare or a unexpected diagnosis, which really that's the entire journey of life. The entire chronic
Hmm.
illness life is always a series of unexpected diagnoses. It's like it's gonna be something all the time.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
finding that place where people get that, and you don't have to explain why you're tired. You don't have to
Yes.
explain, well, what kind of pain are you in? Like that, because those questions are annoying to me. But anyway, but
Yeah. And it also allows you to kind of I mean, I always tell people, let us hear it because we understand it when they come on our support groups, gives your family, your friends, your close loved ones, I would say like a break
yes,
or, releases them from the responsibility of having to uplift you for a little while. Because caregivers, they get overwhelmed
they
too.
do. They do.
And so when you connect to, support groups or other communities that can relate and validate you, you're kind of like giving them a rest and you're
Yes.
allowing your community to give you the support that you need.
Because I
And
think,
it's really important, you know?
yeah, it is. And I think because for me, I think one of the things I've kind of had to do is, like I said in the beginning, is mourn my old life. And
Yeah,
I had to kind of get used to the fact that the old Toya in her 20s and even early 30s, she was a cool chick, but that's not who she is now. But
exactly.
your family and your friends, they also mourn the old you. And
They
when they
really
see
do.
you, because we don't walk
Mhm.
around with all the scars, we don't look sick. We don't look like
No,
how
we
what we're going
don't.
through. And so when they see you, they really only really see the old you. And
Hmm.
the realization that that's not the person that they're hanging with now, that's like a constant reminder. So that wears on them. And
It
yeah,
does.
sometimes they kind of may not get it, but
Hmm. Or it might even be the opposite. Like, for me, I had two cousins and an aunt that all passed away before the age of 30. And my aunt at 23 suffered tremendously from lupus back then. They didn't have the treatments that they have today, so it ravished her body. And then my other cousin at 29 passed away and it ravished her body. And so when I was diagnosed, it was devastating for my family. I think we all were Am I going to suffer the way my aunt and my cousins?
Right.
You know, am I going to pass away before I hit the age 30? You know, so that was for my family. It was, and even now, you know, I still, you know, are you okay? Are you going to be all right? I mean, you know, they're very protective of me in that way. And sometimes, you know, I don't want to be known as the lupus lady. You know what I mean? I don't want to be known as the chronic illness. I just want to have a good time, or I just want to enjoy, you know, hanging out. But it's because they know and they love me that sometimes they want to protect me, and it
Right.
can become overwhelming. So you kind of have to give grace to your family, you know, and grace to your friendships too, because they're trying their best sometimes. And they don't really know what we need or what we want or what we are looking for. So that's why when you go to these communities that can relate to what your needs are, and what your validation needs are, you know, it takes that responsibility off of them, and you don't take what they do so personally,
Exactly.
you know?
I love that description, because they're going through it with you. You know, like you may be like the one driving the boat, but like they're in the back still getting the waves hit, you know, so they're going through it with you. So as we close up, tell us about your book, where we can get it,
Oh, yes,
and then
absolutely.
tell us about the support group, how they can join if they want, all the things.
Okay. Well, my book is Faith Leads the Way. You can Google my name, Yvette Salinas, and it'll come right up. It's on Amazon. You can also order it on my website, faithleadstheway.org. And on that website, I have my nonprofit, Juicy Fruits Ministry, and I also have my support group, a spiritual medicine support group that you can register for. And it's where faith and support unite. So it's basically a chronic illness support group, but we incorporate our faith. We speak boldly and we speak openly about our faith. We do support with encouraging words. We use scripture. We have worship. And we try to give the tools that we need during the healing process and during the pain and the suffering of chronic illness. So you're all welcome to join us there. I also have the lupus support group through the Lupus Foundation of America. You can go to lupus.org/support. And I run the National Hispanic Support Group there. So we'd love to have anyone join us in those two support groups. And I love having you, Latoya, at Spiritual Medicine. And I love the fact that we connected. You are an awesome warrior, and good luck with you continuing this wonderful work with Butterfly Chats, because it's crucial that we get the word out about chronic illness and how that there's hope out there.
It is. Thank you so much. And that's really the biggest thing. You know, I want to be the person I didn't have when I first got diagnosed.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want to let everyone know. And even if you're a caregiver who's watching this,
That's right.
you guys are welcome as well, because like we just said, y'all are going through it with us. You
That's
know,
right.
and going to these support groups will kind of maybe even hopefully give you a little bit more insight into what your person's going through, because I don't tell my family everything.
That's right.
Everything that was going on, their brain would blow up, you know.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. Before we go, that's what my sister said to me. She went to one of my doctor's appointment recently this past year, and she sat through it. And then when we left, we were walking out, and she just kind of stopped me, and she just turned around. She just looked at me, and she goes, "I had no idea."
Yeah.
She goes, "I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad."
Mm-hmm.
And I just told her, I said, "Well, I know it sounds really bad, but I've already learned to cope with it."
Right. Right.
I set her free, I just said, I'm good, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but it is overwhelming for our family. So absolutely, caregivers, loved ones, friends, they should all come on to get the tools that they need to.
100%. And yeah, I'll have the little links in the descriptions
Okay.
so everybody can have it. And please come, give it a try, and start looking for your place. So until then, thank you so much, Yvette, for
Thank you,
coming,
Latoya.
sharing. I love it. And until then, guys, we will talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.